Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to bring you the Vision 2 video. What I've guessed today is a quick synopsis video of this today game that did happen earlier today. If you guys did miss it, this is pretty much everything that was talked about, from the different recalibration changes, to new skill power mods, to a new crafting Avenger, and some other changes we'll be seeing in the future. So if you guys have any questions about the video or anything, let me know in the comments. Also, if you want to check out the full live stream, check out the description. I'm going to have a link to the full live stream if you guys did miss it. But nonetheless, if you guys do enjoy this video or find it helpful, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more videos, and let's get right into this.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the whole recalibration thing, because it is your feature.
Yeah.
That's been your baby for a very long time.
Yes.
There's been, I think, one of the things that people have talked about a lot is the situation where you have something purple, for example, and then you recal that stat onto a high end, and that frustration of seeing it become a lower number.
Yeah, because it caps out. Yes. So what's happening there is basically that each item has a budget up high, basically, and purple pies are smaller than orange pies. But when you move a piece of the pie that is large enough, it will not fit in the bigger one because it can only grow by so much.
Yeah.
And this has been the 15 gear score increase that people are playing with on live, and that's been the case up until now. But when we looked at it, we came back to the core idea that we started this whole system with, which is basically, what if I take this one stat here and I just put it over there, which is a pretty simple idea at its core. But a lot of balancing things made us eventually move into cap that out, because it also increased your gear score and so on.
Okay.
So what we did now was that we, instead of increasing the gear score, we separated that into a separate value, your recalibration score. And when you move a stat, that score increases, but your gear score stays the same.
Okay.
So then, you can't go to 515 anymore, but instead you can get that recalibration score all the way up to 100.
Okay, per slot, per item.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And that means that most of the times you'll be able to move stats wholesale over. You can still hit the cap if you have a really if you find two items with really skewed rolls and then you moved a high roll into a low roll slot. You can still cap that out, but it will be much more rare, and doing so is a pretty good feat.
All right, this is pretty complicated.
Yeah.
To be fair, let's go through it in my kind of layman's terms. I think one of the things that people overlook, myself included, is that let's take a superior item as opposed to a high end. The superior item, in my understanding, and correct me when I'm wrong, is that, like you say, it is a smaller pie. So we're going to talk a little bit about budget, right, as a game design thing. The budget for that is lower than a high end.
Yes.
But it's focused into less stats.
Yeah, exactly.
So less flavors of the pie, right? So not as complex pie.
Yeah.
But the high end it has more stat, slots.
Yeah.
With a potential lower ceiling for each of those, but a higher budget overall.
Yeah.
Okay, is that?
Yeah, that is
all
mostly
make
correct.
sense?
The ceiling isn't necessarily lower, but the chance of you hitting the ceiling on one is lower because it's distributed between 3 ingredients instead of 2, for example.
Okay, and that's what leads us to the situation, and Alo talked about this before, was that if you had a set of gloves at superior, and it had, let's say, 10% assault rifle damage, and then you recaled that onto a high end with a potential ceiling of 6%, that's why you see that 10% drop to 6%.
Yeah, exactly, because there's the power has gone somewhere else.
Yeah.
And moving this you will replace what's in there from the beginning, and then you up until this point, you only had 15 gear score worth of power left to fill out.
Okay. So knowing that now, what does this new system do differently from that?
So basically, every pie had an empty piece of it, which was the growth potential, which was 15 gear score. And we made that piece way bigger. So now it's 100 recalibration score instead.
Okay.
So when you move a piece of one pie to another, the chance of you filling that up and basically making the game cut off and discard some piece, hitting the cap, is way lower because more fits.
Okay.
And that means that you can make stronger items in general. But we've also separated it from gear score just so we can do this without screwing too much with other features.
Okay, so you'll never see an item above 500 gear score.
No, you can't recalibrate the gear score up anymore, but you will see up to 100 recalibration score instead.
Okay, is that, and we talked with Redstorm last week about the gear score creep in the dark zone. And we'll talk a little bit about that whole situation, because I know a lot of people have been talking about this whole 515 in the dark zone thing. Does that mean for them, with their message of 515 in the dark zone, that it will be actually 500 with the recal there, or is it actually going to be 515 with your 100 recal on top?
Yeah, so the recal is separate, so every
Okay.
item has their own 100 it can grow, and that's not considering anything else than itself. So basically, every item has 100 it can recalibrate.
Okay, so based on that, that would mean that as of the game right now, let's forget the whole dark zone 515 thing. Max gear score on a piece is 500
Yes.
plus 100 recal.
Yes.
Okay, then if the dark zone 515 thing, that will be 515 plus recal as well.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm digesting this. I hope chat is on the same page. Just before, while we're on the topic, I know we've been talking about the whole dark zone 515 thing. Do not worry, it is not dark zone exclusive. There will be other sources for those things. We would never want to make it so you have to go into the dark zone to get that. There you go. We'll talk more about that in the future. As to what sources there will be, it won't just be the dark zone. There will be others. So, we were talking about how this recal works, and I think, well, we're kind of jumping ahead on what I wanted to talk about, but mods follow very similar logic, correct?
Yeah, but you can't recalibrate them, of course.
No,
but
no.
they're also a pie.
Yeah, their qualities
Yeah.
and those sorts of things. Because, again, well, we kind of addressed it with a different thing, but a lot of the conversation around mods has been blue mods are better. Can you talk about what the game design intention is behind those? How do you want people to be using those in the in-game experience? Do we want people to be only using high ends, or?
So high ends, our qualities grow and becomes like better than the previous qualities. And the main way we've been doing this is to add more power to them, but also add more stats, which also spreads that power out a little bit. Ideally, you should go for high ends and gear sets in endgame, like in any case, because that's a good indicator. And maybe you equip a purple sometime because it has something very specific that you're after. But it would be good for you to find then a high-end piece that has those things and something more to replace that with, basically.
Yeah.
And then for skills, we have the thing where you don't have enough skill power to equip mods of higher qualities. Then it's pretty cool to be able to fall back to something that's a little bit worse, but that works for you. And we actually did a thing to help
I like this.
skill build players.
Because this is new.
Yes, it's pretty new. So if you're not speccing for skill power or only spec for a little bit of skill power, you might find it hard to equip certain mods for your skills that you want to equip. And what we're doing then is we're introducing a new type of mod called aux batteries. And these basically come with skill power for a particular skill. So you can get a drop that's a battery for your turret that gives you turret skill power. And then you equip that into your turret in one of the mod slots. It can go in any slot.
Okay.
And then you get the skill power, but then you also sacrificed a slot for it, right? But if you have some kind of hybrid build, it might be worth to get one or two mods functionally less to get that extra skill power, so you can equip a third mod that is way better for you, for instance.
Yeah.
So it's gonna open up more build diversity. I think it's really cool. We added them in just as normal mods, so you can find them from drops. If you craft the random mods, you have a chance of getting them too. And yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that leads people to the purple and blue mods is that they come with a really big singular stat on them. And I guess the thing that dilutes a high-end mod is there's a lower chance for all, is it 3 stats on them to be exactly
so,
what you're
yeah.
looking for?
Yeah.
But the potential to find the perfect high-end mod, while it might be lower, the potential power of them is a lot higher.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Blue and purple mods being craftable. That's happening.
Yes, we're adding in blueprints, so we don't have to farm for the skill mods for blue and purple.
All right.
To accommodate for the low skill power builds in general. And you can buy those blueprints at our new crafting vendor, which is Inaya, the crafting NPC. She is now a vendor. And she sells blueprints for you.
All right. And that's going to be in the PTS, the next revision?
No, I think it's up now, actually.
It already is? Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. That's a lot.
Yeah, and we're also moving all the crafting related stuff that was on the other vendor. So you got a couple of skill mod blueprints during the campaign, the ones that grow with you, and the weekly blueprint. That is also moved to Inaya now. So we're clearing up the main base of operations vendor and separating the crafting stuff out. And also with like upgrade blueprints for exotics and all that jazz is now on Inaya instead.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about the blueprint situation in just a second.
Yeah.
But let's say to clarify, let's say I'm gear score 500 and I have the blue mod blueprint and the purple mod blueprint.
Yeah.
Those will be, what, 490 when they craft? And
yes, and whatever the equivalent. Well, they will be slightly lower.
But they can't cap out at 500?
No,
okay.
They don't.
Right.
Because only high ends go to 500 and gear sets.
Man.
But we don't have gear set mods. So.
Right. Game isn't complicated at all.
No.
There's a lot. My brain's kind of like, but you just mentioned blueprints, and I want to go into that because a lot of people are getting to that point where they've exhausted the amount of blueprints they can get from specific sources, but there isn't really in-game feedback. For example, we talked about it before the stream. Like a lot of people are going to control points and getting them that way, and then they don't show up anymore. Yeah,
exactly. And if that happens to you, good for you. You got all the blueprints from control points. Congratulations, you did a good grind.
Yeah.
And that happens because blueprints are unlocks, right? You only get them once, and then you have them forever. So they eventually run out. So and we've divided the blueprints into different pools in endgame. So the control points was one pool, and then we also have for the vendors and for the projects, basically, and a few from drops and some other sources, but that's not the issue here.
Yeah.
And what was happening was that you could only get the project's blueprints from the weekly project, and that was fairly slow because you can get one per week. So we looked into that, and we started with adding 2 more. So there's a weekly project from each settlement that will also give you one of these blueprints now. So those are 3 per week.
All right.
And to make it even better, we're adding a new project that's called the Daily Shade Requisition, which is a daily project from the base of operations where you donate some crafting materials. I believe it's 2 green and 1 blue type, and different types each day. And when you do that, you get a couple of items on a high end, and you get a blueprint from this pool as well. And you can do this every day.
So you can now, well, you will be able to, once the update comes out, go from what is currently the weekly pool and start pulling those daily. So it's not going to be the weekly pool anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be a project pool instead.
Okay.
And you get 3 per week plus 1 per day.
Cool.
Yeah. And the daily project may or may not be on PTS at this point because we're still working on some kinks with it. But for all intents and purposes, we're shipping it at least.
All right. What about ammo drops?
Yes, they're good to get.
Yes, I like those.
Yes, because melee is kind of bad strategy.
Yeah.
No, so we bumped the chance of you of getting an ammo drop from enemies when you're low on ammo. So you'll be seeing more of those gray resource drops as you're running out, which gives you more opportunity to go and pick more ammo up, basically.
Okay.
And hopefully that will help you to not run out.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that always sounds like